What's up everybody, JJ here, and I am always making a mess around here. Tons of 3D printing, various projects, 2 dogs and 2 cats, makes this place kind of a mess. I recently reached out to Roborock to see if they would send over a robot vacuum to see if it could handle a bit of the mess. Luckily this video isn't sponsored by Roborock, so I can tell you how it's really worked. So today we're going to do just a simple tour around here, see which printers I'm really using, which printers make the biggest mess, and how well the Roborock can really handle it. So they sent over the Q Revo. This is one of their mid-range robot vacuum mopping combos with a all-in-one multifunction dock. It's called the Revo because it has revolving mopping pads to help mop and scrub the floors. The multifunction dock washes the pads several times throughout the mopping cycle and then dries the pads after the mopping cycle has run. It empties the vacuum into a dust bin. They say the dust bag can hold up to 7 weeks before you need to replace the bag, but depending on how hairy your pets are, we got more like 3 weeks out of it. The dock has a removable base, which is way easier to clean than previous vacuums that I've used. LiDAR navigation works well to avoid even moving obstacles, so if you're moving your tripod around or your pets are moving around while the vacuum is running, it won't bump into them. The auto-lifting mop pads raise 7 millimeters off of the ground, allowing for vacuuming of rugs and carpets without getting them wet. Around the studio, there's 2 main things I needed to clean up. Pet hair, we've got 2 large dogs and 2 cats that are constantly shedding everywhere, and it really starts to accumulate without constant vacuuming. The next thing I needed to clean up is trash from 3D printers. Thought I'd do the YouTube thing of clipping microphone to object. Some of my most used 3D printers and also the messiest 3D printers are Bamboo Lab printers, especially using multi-material printing. Every time it starts a new print or changes filament, it creates a little poop. It makes what they call a poop of filament. It purges the melt zone and then spits out a little coil of filament. This makes them really easy to use because it's easy to swap out filaments, but it also makes a bit of a mess because even with a moderate amount of printing, it's easy to make a large pile of filament poops. When it comes to cleaning these up though, there are multiple different sizes and shapes of these poops. Sometimes they're nice and organized and can be cleaned up by the vacuum. Sometimes they are a bit bigger and the vacuum does struggle with those. It seems like a more 50-50 chance of whether the vacuum will be able to pick it up or not. So with the Q Revo, I think your best case is to keep these cleaned up. The next bit of mess that these printers make are purge lines. Whenever it starts to make a print, it first prints a small line on the front of the bed that gets the nozzle ready to start printing. These are small and thin and can be picked up by the vacuum. So if they do fall on the floor on accident, it's fine because the vacuum will just handle that. Overall, these are great machines and some of my most used 3D printers, but you do need to clean up after them because the vacuum's not going to do it for you. On the other side of the room here, we've got Creality printers. The K1C, the K1 Max, the Ender 3 V3 SE, the V3 KE, the CR10 SE is on the ground, and the Ender 3 V3 is in the other room. These are more standard 3D printers since they don't have any multi-material parts here. There's no filament poop between prints, but they do cause a lot of purge lines. Whenever you change filament, it creates just a thin, wispy spiral of filament like this, or these little lines on the edge of the print beds like this. These can actually be picked up by the Roborock Q Revo. Just so you don't have a really long spool of filament, something like this is maxing out at how much this vacuum is able to actually pick up. I am doing a ton of printing and testing comparing these printers right now, and so it's really nice that these little bits of scraps of filament that do fall on the ground can just be picked up by the vacuum, and I don't really have to deal with it. Larger scraps of filament, though, do need to be dealt with, and I can't just let anything fall on the ground. But in general, these purge lines, if I just scrape them on the floor, the vacuum's gonna come by the next morning and clean them all up. That's super nice. That's been super convenient to keeping this area of the room really clean. Next up, let's move to a bigger printer. This is the Elegoo Orange Storm Giga, and it's kind of a mess of a printer. Here's a giant Lego lightsaber I 3D printed on this. And as you can see up close, if you followed that series on the shorts, you'd notice that the print quality here is pretty bad. A lot of overhangs create a lot of bits that fall off. I can pull off bits of overhang here, and this is a lot of scrap that ended up on the ground. Little bits like this are all right, but when there's a lot of it, the robot vacuum does struggle. Currently on the print bed here is another print failure, and there's no really good way to get all of these little pieces off of the bed without a lot of it falling on the ground. And the problem with a printer this big is that it's a lot of little pieces on the ground. One or two of these, the vacuum would be fine picking up. But when it's trying to pick up 100 tiny pieces, so if you have a big printer that has big errors like this one does, a robot vacuum isn't really going to be a good solution for it. You're just going to need to get out a broom. But for the occasional small pieces that fall on the ground, the vacuum will do a great job picking those up. So I thought one of the best ways to talk about the new features on the Roborock is to compare it to my previous Robo vacuums. These are iRobot Roombas. This is the 960, and this is their mopping Brava M6. Two separate machines, which I don't think work as well as this one machine does. This one is a pretty decent vacuum. If you have mostly carpeted floors or rugs, not a lot of hard floors, then this could be a good option. It vacuums pretty well, has a nice large container on the back, but the navigation is not as great. This one uses a camera and the front bumping pad to see its way around. This one uses LiDAR to actively map its way around. So as it's mopping, if you drop something in front of it, a dog toy, or the dog comes and lays in front of it, it sees it in front of itself and slows down, then will come up and slightly bump it with this front bumper on the front to make sure it gets close enough to an object without pushing it away. These both pretty hard bump into things because it seems like it's mostly using that to see its way around. When it comes to mopping here, that's where the Roborock is really going to win. This is kind of a glorified Swiffer with wheels on the bottom. You put this Swiffer-like pad to the bottom, it runs around, sprays cleaning solution in front of it, and runs it over. So if your area is either small or not that dirty, if you just have a kitchen that you're running this in, this could be a decent option. But for me, around here, it's a large area it's trying to clean. So by the end of a cleaning cycle, this is really dirty and it's just rubbing this dirty pad on the floor. That's not doing very much to clean anything. This one uses a clean and dirty water tank while it's running. I have it set to every 10 minutes. It comes back to the base station, runs clean water down into the bottom here, scrubs off the pads, and cycles that water into the dirty water tank. So the pads stay wet and clean. Every 10 minutes, it's updating and freshening those pads. It's also spinning those pads to actually scrub the floor instead of this one just slowly rubs it against the ground and doesn't do that much to actually clean things. Another big difference is what happens after the cycle is done. With the Roborock, it blows hot air on the pads to dry them out, so it doesn't stay all wet and mildewy. The iRobot, on the other hand, has a wet, dirty, stinky pad here, and it just sits on top of it on the base. And if you leave for a weekend or you forget and leave it for just a few days and you come back, it is disgusting and stinky and foul. And I bought both of these. I thought this was a good design when I first bought it, but now after using it, and especially using an updated, better system, this is way better at mopping. This is not very good at mopping. This robot works pretty well at vacuuming. For how cheap you could get one of these, this could be a great system. But if you need both mopping and vacuuming, something newer in an all-in-one docking base like this will really be a better option. So I know I've been saying really great things about this Roborock Q Revo, but it's not a perfect machine. I have had a few mistakes with it. The first one is that it did run into some cat puke and got filled with cat puke. I didn't film it, I'm not going to show you. That's just what happened. While it does have LiDAR and obstacle avoidance on here, it's not the most advanced system out there. I have seen some newer vacuums which say they have better systems, but if you do have pets, I would just make sure there's no animal waste around, just in case. Another issue with this robot vacuum is things that fall right in the middle here. Either large poops from the bamboo printers or small toys from cats. We have these wormy cat toys that they love to play with, and that's really the only cat or dog toy that has gotten stuck in this. It gets stuck in the main brush roller, and you can hear it and it will stop eventually and you've got to pull it out. It isn't so bad since that's really the only toy that I need to make sure to pick up before running the vacuum. And these larger scraps of 3D printer waste are really easy to see and really easy to pick up. It's just something I've got to deal with since robot vacuums aren't perfect for cleaning up 3D printers. Another big downside to robot vacuums in general, and this is more to people who haven't used one before and maybe watch a video like this thinking it's a perfect machine, they are limited by their size. If you've got a lamp too close to the wall, it can't reach behind there because this is a big circular disc. It can't reach out behind a table to get something. If, say, you've got two boxes close together, two tables too close together, there are gaps where this, as a big round circular thing, can't reach back into. So maybe your space isn't designed well for robot vacuums to work, or maybe you have to rearrange how things are organized to make it best suited for robot vacuums, if you want to use one in your life. It also can't go upstairs, so if you've got multiple floors, you have to either pick it up and move the vacuum around, or get multiple robot vacuums. But that just about wraps it up. If you have any more questions about this, other robot vacuums, or other 3D printers that I use, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to help you out. If you are interested in this one, there are some affiliate links down below and maybe some coupons if I can find any to help you out. Again, not sponsored, and you don't have to use those, just if you want to. Those do help out the channel. As always, go out there, create something amazing today, and I'll see you in the next video.